We hear this a lot, like, obstacles are really just opportunities, right? Like, obstacles are really just opportunities, depending on your perspective. And the reality of it is that it's easy to look at an obstacle and see the obstacle as a problem, right?
It's true.
To see the obstacle as something that's a deterrent to you from moving forward. But if you really get a perspective and you really can understand who God is and what He's like, then you start seeing every obstacle as an opportunity. Whether it's an obstacle that you created or not, whether it's an obstacle that somebody else created, well, yeah, you can try to define, God allowed this or God didn't allow this and I did this and I did that or He did that. And in the end, you're not going to figure it out, right? You're not going to figure it out. But I know this, that God will turn all things into good for those that are loved by God, that love God, and are called according to the purpose that He's called them to. If you really can understand who God is and what He's like, He will turn anything hard into something incredible if you let Him. So an obstacle really is an opportunity if we see it right. And I want you to stay standing for a second because I want to read this scripture to you. I want to read this scripture because I feel like a lot of us have these obstacles that have been thrown at us in this season. How many have an obstacle they feel like have been thrown at them? A challenge that's been thrown on them. A new responsibility that's been thrown on them. A new test that's been thrown into the mix of their life. A new situation. Maybe it's a new relationship. It's a new family member. It's something. Something's been thrown on you. Maybe that you didn't expect, right? And it's in your mind. Your first reaction was, man, this is an obstacle. But what if it's an opportunity? Because God will throw things at us sometimes, or life will throw things at us sometimes, and they often will feel like obstacles. But man, we know God is so good, He can turn every obstacle into an opportunity to overcome. Because He wants to teach you about how to overcome stuff in life, I know there's a generation that really is directed by their external situations and circumstances. I think every generation struggles with it, let's just be honest, right? Every generation, to some degree, struggles with letting the external forces around them determine the internal peace that they have in the inside of their heart. You with me this morning? And I want to read this scripture to you out of 1 Kings. Just stay standing for a second. 19, verse 19 out of the New King James Version. It says this, so he departed from there. Speaking of Elijah. Everyone say Elijah. Elijah. There was two guys, Elijah and Elisha. Elijah and Elisha. Say ja, now say sha, so you don't get confused. Elijah and Elisha. So Elijah departed from there and found Elisha, the son of Shaphat, who was plowing with 12 yoke of oxen before him, and he was with the 12th. Then Elijah passed by him and threw, everyone say this, threw. Because life sometimes will walk by and throw something on you that you didn't expect. Situations will happen in life that you didn't expect that will feel like something's been thrown on you. You weren't wanting it, you weren't desiring it. In fact, you were minding your own business and then bam, something came on you. Your boss at work said, hey, I got a new responsibility for you. And maybe you didn't like it. How many know what I'm talking about? You didn't like it at first because you found your groove, right? You've been used to like plowing. You've been used to hanging out with the 12 yoke of oxen. You've been used to, your vein of comfort. And then all of a sudden your boss, your manager comes in and says, hey, I got a new assignment for you. Kind of threw it on you. Didn't warn you, just kind of threw it at you. How many know what I'm talking about? That happens all the time. And he threw his mantle on him, verse 20. And he left, this is Elisha, and he left the oxen and ran after Elijah and said, please let me kiss my father and my mother, and then I will follow you. And he said to him, go back again. This is Elijah speaking to Elisha. He said to him, go back again, for what have I done to you? In other words, go back and think about what you're getting into. Go back and think about what you're getting into, because you could either see this as an obstacle or you could see it as an opportunity. You could see this as an obligation. You could see this as something that you don't want, or you could really see it as this incredible opportunity. What if this opportunity is the very opportunity that's going to invite you into the purpose to which I've called you? Let's go back and kind of consider, think about it. For what have I done to you? So Elijah, verse 21, Elisha turned back from him and took a yoke of oxen and slaughtered them, boiled their flesh. Everyone say boiled their flesh.
Boiled their flesh.
Because you all know you want to boil the flesh of the oxen in your life. And he boiled the flesh using the oxen's equipment. That's called stewardship right there. Right? I'm going to use everything that I have to make it work. Using the oxen's equipment, he burned it up, boiled the flesh, and gave it to the people, and they ate. Then he arose and followed Elijah and became his servant. Before you sit down, I want you to turn to someone behind you, okay? Behind you. And if no one's behind you because you're at the back, turn to someone beside you and say, don't miss it. Don't miss it. Don't miss it. Okay?
Don't miss it.
Now you can sit down. Now I want you to hear that come out of your mouth, because this is going to be something that's very important for you in this season. I want you to hear that when you turn around and you say that to somebody. You know, every time you confess something, you say something, you're kind of held accountable to that something, right? It's like a New Year's resolution. I'm going to lose 50 pounds. Or I'm going to lose, 10 pounds. Or I'm going to go to the gym 4 times a week. And how many know the majority of the time your New Year's resolutions stop after week 3? But there's something powerful about speaking it out, right? About saying it, about releasing it from your heart to your mouth to somebody else, because now you're kind of held accountable. Well, if I'm telling you not to miss it, I better not miss it, right? That's kind of when I get up here on the platform and everything I speak to you, it also feeds me. Because what feeds me will feed you. So I'm speaking to myself as well. You're hearing me now. You're going to have to get a little more connected here this morning, because if you don't, you're going to miss it. Come on, say don't miss it. Don't miss it. When opportunity gets thrown on you. We talked about this, these opportunities, new job. How many maybe you've got a new job in the last year, coming into a new job, or maybe it's a new promotion at work, new responsibility, new relationship. How many are in a new dating relationship? Okay, a few of you. Okay, how many aren't in a relationship right now? Because listen, we're just going to take names and numbers right now. Okay. If you're not in a relationship, okay, someone back there is not in a relationship, okay. How many guys not in a relationship? Okay, see these eligible bachelors, I swear. We should start like a Kingdom Culture Bachelorette Season 1, Bachelor Season 1. That would be awesome, man. Come on. You all would like it. You guys secretly watch Bachelorette on your alone time. Yeah. I think it'd be cool. Anyway, some of you just need to get hitched quick, because it's taking way too long. And so we got to start taking names. We'll put your face on the screen and we'll advertise. We'll send an Instagram out. Eligible bachelor. I mean, we all know you guys go on the dating sites. Why not just set it up in church? Why not just set it up for you, Come on. You know who you are. I can point you out right now, put you on the spot, but I don't want to do that. Even though I'm the king of the awkward. I can make people feel really awkward really quick, right, Chelsea? Okay, so small opportunities always are what pave the way for big opportunities. Always remember that. Small opportunities always pave the way for big opportunities. We don't always see clearly when an opportunity comes. You don't know that new responsibility that your manager gave you this week that you despise with everything in you. You don't know that new task that he's assigned to you, you don't know that could be a setup, not a setback for you, a setup for promotion. That could be something that maybe he, whether he knows it or not, is testing you with to see, okay, hey, how willing is this person to go the extra mile? Hey, maybe your boss said, to you this week, I want you to start coming in an hour earlier. You know, and it's not because you've been chronically late all the time. He said, I want you to come in an hour earlier because maybe, just maybe, he knows there's a season coming where there is a platform of potential for you that's about to come down in the workplace, and he has to see if you're ready and capable to do it. Is if you can't get up an hour earlier and show up to work an hour earlier, maybe, just maybe, you can't manage the staff effectively because maybe one day he's going to put you into a place of management. Right? Or we pray stuff like, God, we pray for success, right? You're working at McDonald's, you know, and you're praying for success. You're praying for the purposes of God to be, you know, made manifest in your life. And all of a sudden your boss says, hey, I want to promote you, or I want to give you this new task, this new thing. I want you to come in now during the night. You're going to do the night shift and you're going to clean the whole place. But maybe, just maybe, God's getting you ready to promote you. Maybe you're going to manage the whole McDonald's one day. Are you hearing what I'm saying? Sometimes the greatest opportunities feel like the biggest obstacles. And if our perspective is wrong, all we do is see the negative, right? All we do is, how dare you put that task on me? My plate's already full. But man, people often will know what's best for you more than you do. People around you often know your potential more than you feel it yourself. People around you, if you can start trusting people around you, really what you're saying is, I'm really trusting God. And even if those people fail you, it still shows that, hey, I'm trusting God with my life. I'm trusting God with my life. But the reason why a lot of us get stuck and we don't ever reach the promotion part of our life is because we're always looking at everything through the lens of, hey, it's a burden instead of a blessing. But sometimes blessings can feel like burdens. It can, right? It can feel like, man, it's challenging. But our perspective, when we have a right perspective, we start seeing the blessing within the blessing, even if it feels like a burden. We see the potential of what this blessing really can do for us 5 years from now, but sometimes it feels like a challenging burden. You know what I'm talking about? You know what I'm talking about? Because you have opportunities right now, especially like in leadership, man, when people start offering you invitations to come into a place of leadership or a place of more authority or more influence, you got to trust those people around you, because those people would never, if they're already in leadership, would not give you the time of day if they didn't believe you had it. And you know how many people throw down opportunity because it feels like an obstacle for them because they don't feel ready. Number one lesson of leadership, you will never feel ready. You will never feel ready. You'll never feel ready to be married. You'll never feel ready to have children. And first of all, you can't even really control it. To some degree. I mean, God opens and closes the womb. I mean, to some degree, right? But you'll never feel ready, man. People say, well, I'm not ready to have kids. I got to wait till I'm like 35. I got to have like the big house, the cars, the profession. Then you have no idea when you get there how easy or hard it's going to become. You have no idea. Because the reality of it is, in every area of life that we are called to be promoted to, we will never feel ready. In fact, sometimes that's how God likes it, because He wants you to not feel like you can do it in and of yourself. He wants you to feel like, hey, you have to rely 110% on His grace to make this happen. You got to start paying attention. If people are giving you potential opportunities, you need to say, hey, God, hey, if these people are in my life for a reason, and I keep saying no to this opportunity, maybe I'm missing it because I feel like it's an obstacle, not an opportunity. Maybe I'm not seeing clearly. You know, we talked about this a few weeks ago about how, you know, a passion problem is a privilege problem without perspective. You lose your passion because you stop seeing what you have in front of you as a privilege because you have the wrong perspective of the situation. You see everything as an obligation. You see the obstacle. You see the mountain. Instead of you seeing yourself on that mountain conquering, you see everything as a problem, as a struggle, instead of an opportunity to overcome, to teach you something great about faith. We have to start seeing it this way. I believe this because God doesn't want you to miss it in life. And so many people, I watch them, they forfeit opportunities and they miss what God can do in them because they want to control every area of their life. Man, I remember when I first started traveling and I moved to the U.S., I moved to Minnesota, like one of the mentors I had in my life, I mean, he stretched me so much. Like, he was always stretching me, and I felt so ill-equipped. I mean, I didn't know how to public speak. I didn't know, even getting up for 5 minutes, I'd go into these, like, anxiety, modes, sweating for 5 minutes, like, didn't know what I was going to do. And I remember he'd put me on the spot. 700 people would call me up, be like, Shawn's going to share 5 minutes right now. It's going to be awesome. And I wouldn't even feel like I was ready. I'd be in a restaurant. He'd say, before you leave, I want you to prophesy over all these guys at this table right here. Just I want you to pray for them. I want you to prophesy over them. He would put me on the spot in crazy situations, but it taught me. It taught me about what was inside of me that I didn't even know was there, that he saw in me, that I didn't see in me because I didn't feel ready. But if I rejected it, I would have missed the opportunity when it was thrown on me. I would have missed it. Because we feel like everything's a burden, right? We feel like, man, I'm not doing that, because I feel insecure, really, which is what it is. Or I feel the pride of wanting to impress people, and what are they going to think of me? And really, it's about me. But if it's always about you, you'll never grow up into who you're called to be. Because you got to start seeing that your breakthrough in life into who you are in your potential is about other people around you's breakthrough. You start seeing yourself through a selfless lens in the sense of like, hey, wait a minute, it's not about me. If somebody's giving me the opportunity, then really it's about not just me, about the opportunity to influence those around me. Because my breakthrough starts to become your breakthrough. When you've been given an opportunity to do something, it's not about you any longer. It's about your breakthrough helping somebody else break through. Oh, something, man, if they did it, I know what they were like, man. They were super shy. They were super awkward. They were so anti all of that. And now look at them. Wow, I can be that. You know what I'm talking about? But if they never moved into that, those people wouldn't have that perspective and wouldn't have that breakthrough. You hearing what I'm saying this morning? See, Elisha had this incredible opportunity, and we see it in the beginning passage here where it talks about this opportunity where Elijah, this guy, this prophet to Israel, was walking by. God had spoken to him and said, hey, there's a guy that's going to succeed you. Now, Elisha probably was not aware of the God word that was given to Elijah, that this prophet, Elisha, a future prophet, would succeed Elijah. I know it's confusing. That's why I want you to say Jah and Shah, two different people. So he comes along one day and he throws this opportunity onto Elisha and he walks away. I love it. He just throws it on there and then walks away. Because the greatest opportunities in life, okay, will not come chasing you too much. They'll not. Eventually they'll just walk away. Because it's up to you to respond. It's up to you to run after the opportunity. When an opportunity passes you by, let me tell you, eventually that opportunity will walk away, and it's up to you entirely if you're going to chase that opportunity down and let God do what he really wants to do. Because listen, God will always pick somebody else. If you don't want the baton, God will find someone else to carry the baton. You know how many times in life that has happened? God is doing that all the time. If you do not pick up the baton, God will not force you to do anything. That's the beauty of the love of God over our lives, is God will not force you to do anything, but God will give you the opportunity to say, hey, you can run with this. But if you don't, I got somebody else on backup, man. You might not think that. But God's not going to, listen, that baton may be available to you 40 years from now, but you've just lost 40 years of your potential because you waited and waited because you never felt ready. You will never, ever feel ready. Hear these words. I'm prophesying to you. You will never feel ready for the opportunities that God invites you into. And that life invites you into. Depending on your perspective, you will never feel ready. And I between this spot of Elisha having this encounter where this mantle, which symbolized influence, symbolized authority, symbolized the calling over Elijah to the nation of Israel as their prophet, that this opportunity was thrown on Elisha. And what we don't understand is there was a journey that began after that point. There was a journey, and it wasn't just by chance. I remember, anybody ever been to Newfoundland? Yeah? A few of you. Man, Newfoundland has some of the most creative names for towns I've ever heard. And I just crazy. Like, what's one of them? Like, Blow Me Down River or something. Dildo. These are all names of towns. I'm just telling you. If you go there, you're going to find it. Conception Bay, which is near Queer Pond, which is near a Virgin Arm. And one of my favorites, is a town called Come By Chance. You ever heard of it? It's a town called Come By Chance. I don't know if we have the picture up there. Come By Chance. There should be a picture there for you, but Come By Chance is one of the towns. I remember taking a picture of it when I was there. It's on this big silo, or a big water silo type of thing. And I'm just thinking about, like, in life, that is not how the kingdom works. You do not come by chance opportunities to take you higher in life. It is not by chance, it's by God's grace. It's by God's grace, by you walking the walk that you're called to walk. It's by God's grace that you come into all that He has called you to. It's not by chance. And Elisha, although he accepted this invitation, it wasn't by chance that he became the successor of Elijah. And I want to give you a few things today that I think will help you, the little keys for life that will help you when it comes to dealing with sometimes what feels like the obstacle of opportunity. Now, we talked about this 2 weeks ago about the obstacle of obligation. But there's also an obstacle that comes with opportunity, and that's to see through the obstacle into the opportunity. And this is what someone like Elisha would have had to go through to come into the great opportunity that he had ahead of him. Number one, you have to see it. If you don't want to miss it, you have to see it. Write that down. Write that down in your notes. Number one, you have to see it. Number one is see it. Because you won't always really understand it. But if you can see it, if you can see what God is doing beneath the surface, if you could see, I'm sure Elisha had some sort of expectation that his calling wasn't just to do what he was doing, plowing the fields. I'm sure Elisha in his life had this, like, anybody ever felt this, like, when you were a kid? I don't know, I felt this, but anybody ever felt like this feeling like I know I'm called to something more than what I see right now? I know I'm called to something bigger than what I know right now. I know I'm called to something that's beyond my comfort zone of what I'm living right now. You ever feel that way? Hopefully you have a sense of that, because every one of you has a great purpose on the inside of them. And the only way that purpose is going to really manifest itself is if you start seeing the opportunities that are in front of you, not as obstacles, but as something that's going to set you up. You might feel like it's going to set you back, but really it's only a setup, because God wants to put you on a new platform of influence. And these things that come your way, the challenge is always really seeing it. You see, Elisha was plowing his field, minding his business. Everyone say, mind your business. That's what you need to do. If you mind your own business and you steward what you've been given well, guess what? Opportunities will come knocking at your door. Opportunities will come knocking at your door, and sometimes they will feel like obstacles. But I challenge you to reframe your perspective of the different opportunities that are coming and knocking at your door, and say, "Hey, is there a God component in this opportunity?" Because Elisha had to have this moment inside of him where he could begin to see purpose in this. Because in verse 16 of chapter 19, let's go there, 1 Kings chapter 19, verse 16, this was what God said to Elijah. He said, also, I want to get you to anoint these two kings, but also I want you to anoint a prophet. You shall anoint Jehu, the son of Nimshi, as king over Israel, and Elisha, the son of Shaphat, of Abel Meholah, you shall anoint as prophet in your place. Now, when Elijah came to Elisha, he didn't say, "Hey, I'm anointing you as prophet in my place." He just did something symbolic. He gave them an opportunity. But it was on Elisha's shoulders to see it as an opportunity. He put the weight on him. He put the mantle. He threw the opportunity, the responsibility, the task, probably in that moment feeling like a burden. It wasn't just a jacket. It was an animal skin. Because in that time, these mantles, a lot of these guys would wear them. They were like the garments that symbolized who they were and their authority and their influence. And this would have been a sacrifice. This would have been like an animal skin. So here we go. Here we have Elijah as a hairy animal skin. This guy looked like, that was like the first fur coat probably ever. You know, he's wearing this like heavy fur, this heavy animal skin. And here he goes, and he puts it on Elisha. Because you know that your opportunity is always someone else's sacrifice. In that time, what they would do is they would sacrifice animals to atone for their sin to God as worship, right? So this symbol of this animal being sacrificed that represented his authority and his power and his influence was now put on somebody else. This responsibility was put on somebody else. Remember this, every opportunity given to you or bestowed upon you comes from someone else's sacrifice at some level. Your boss, if he gives you an opportunity, well, maybe that boss or whatever, maybe it's the founder of a company or an organization, they sacrifice along the way to give you the opportunity to step up into who you are called to be by being in that position. Every opportunity comes from someone else's sacrifice. So this happens, and I'm sure he didn't understand it, but within every opportunity is hidden this promise, and Elisha is seeing this moment. He's feeling this moment, and he probably doesn't have a lot of time to decide. We don't really know how long the time frame is, but he's probably considering this moment. Man, it's the weight is on me. Oh my gosh, I'm wearing Elijah's animal skin. You know, it probably smells a little bit because they probably weren't washing it very often. He was probably sleeping in it. It probably stunk a little bit. But how many know sometimes responsibility can stink? And it feels kind of gross, but man, there's something about this opportunity, even though it feels gross on my skin, there's something about it that's going to take me and set me up for something great in my future. Are you there? Are you here? Are you here? It's already 1:24. Awesome. Within every opportunity is hidden a promise. Let's go back here, 1 Kings 19. 1 Kings 19. To verse 19. So he departed from there and found Elisha, son of Shaphat, who was plowing with 12 yoke of oxen before him, and he was with the 12. Then Elijah passed by him and threw. I want to get this into you. Threw his mantle on him. I want you to feel this word, because this is how God works with us. He throws stuff on us. He uses life circumstances, situations, family members sometimes, right? Will throw. It's like, it feels like you're just like, you weren't ready for it. Like Elisha was not ready for it, but he had to see it as an opportunity. And I remember when I moved to Alaska, I lived in Alaska for a period of time, and I didn't know how much Alaska would shape-shift my heart and prepare me for what I was supposed to do in the next season. I really didn't. All I knew is that I was going to be given this opportunity to go somewhere, and God actually had given me this real detailed explanation of what it was going to be. It didn't really make any sense at the time. And I remember about a month and a half to 2 months later, I was in Mexico, and this guy comes up to me, and he basically invites me into this opportunity in Alaska for me to start leading these teams onto the street and leading teams into the hospitals and leading teams into the coffee shops to really like just showcase the power and kindness of God. And so he gave me this opportunity, and it was like a weight. And he said, "Oh, listen, I'll pay for all your expenses. You can stay in my bed and breakfast on the beach." There are beaches in Alaska, and you know, like I lived in a massage parlor, which was what it was. It was a massage parlor / bed and breakfast. I can't get any better than that. Now, I didn't get one massage while I was there, but it's all relative to the season I was in. And so, you know, I was there, and I mean, it was awesome. I'd wake up to bald eagles squawking every morning. They were like my friends. You know, Michelle says I look like a bald eagle, and it's actually my favorite bird. You know, it really is my favorite bird, and it's probably because of like the intensity, the intense look. That's why I need to get some Botox in there, probably, or something. Anyways, I'm just joking. So I had this awesome opportunity, you know, this amazing opportunity, and but at times it did not feel like an opportunity. Man, it felt stretching because, you know, I started to work and do roofing while I was in Alaska. Now, how many know that's a scary thing to do in Alaska? Lots of snow, lots of ice. you're at a high place. I mean, it's just the kind of thing, and they work in the winter. They work in the winter, okay? And so, I mean, it was a scary thing. But everything that God was doing in that season was setting me up for something. It was setting me up for something. It was an opportunity. And that is where I actually developed the beginnings of my first curriculum on hearing the voice of God, which then opened the door internationally for me to travel all around the world and train people how to hear the voice of God. It was that season that set me up. I can attribute other seasons before that brought me there, but it was that season that kick-started the invitation and preparing the ground in my heart for God to do what He wanted to do, but I had to see it as an opportunity and not an obstacle. I remember it was awesome, man. We'd be leading these outreaches in coffee shops. We'd have like hundreds of people in a coffee shop. We'd set up these tables, and we called them free spiritual reading tables because Jesus is free, He's spiritual, and He reads your heart. And people understand that language. And so we, instead of saying, hey, free Bible stories for kids, we were like, hey, or God words, we just said, hey, free spiritual reading, because everyone gets that. And we wanted to reach the witch, the warlock, the new age, right? That was our goal. And so, we'd have the lineups. I remember one night we did it. I had about a team with me, about 7 or 8 people, and we had about 3 or 4 booths set up. And the managers loved us because we brought them like tons of business. I mean, we advertised it in the community. And I remember sitting down one night for 4.5 hours, interpreting people's dreams, prophesying over people, speaking the love and kindness of God over people, and people were getting totally rocked, getting delivered. I mean, demons were coming out of people in coffee shop. It was nuts, you guys. Like, people were getting healed, delivered, set free. They were letting Jesus into their life for the first time. I mean, it was powerful. And the manager didn't give a rip about all the crazy stuff that was happening. All he cared about was selling coffee. And they loved us. But all of that was a setup. All of that was a part of injecting the confidence that we needed to go to the next level and what we were called to do in the next season. Are you hearing me? So we have to see it. We have to see it. In Matthew 4, verse 18, and you can see it in the various Gospels, where Jesus comes and invites the disciples into an opportunity to follow Him. I mean, you see the reaction, the response. It's kind of like Elisha, his response. He says, one day, as Jesus was walking along the shore of the Sea of Galilee, He saw 2 brothers, Simon, also called Peter, and Andrew, throwing a net into the water, for they fished for a living. Jesus called out to them, come, follow me, and I'll show you how to fish for people. And they left their nets at once and followed Him. I mean, how does that happen? Okay, just imagine this, okay? You're working your thing, you're working, you're renovating a bathroom, okay? And someone comes into the house where you're renovating the bathroom, comes into the bathroom and says, hey, I'm going to teach you how to renovate people's bathrooms spiritually for a living. So come follow me, and you just drop your tools, you drop your expensive drill, you leave everything at the door, and you just follow. What has to happen for that to be the reality? You have to be able to see an opportunity when it comes. And so many of us are blinded to the opportunity that stands before us because we don't like how it looks, we don't like how it feels, and it's inconvenient, man, and it takes sacrifice, and we don't like how it's going to make us feel because it might make us a little vulnerable for the first time because we're really good at what we do. Here, I'm making I'm renovating this bathroom. This is my zone, but now I'm giving an opportunity that's totally outside of my zone. What if that is more important in that season for you to set you up? But because you're so concerned with comfort, you can't see it. This thought's been coming to me a lot in this last season about how convenience breeds complacency. Write that down. Convenience can really breed complacency in life. Being close to something and always around that something, and it's convenient, nothing good, honestly, let's just be honest, nothing really good and powerful and impacting in life that you will ever live will really come out of a place of convenience. It's going to come with extreme effort. It's going to come with extreme risk. There's going to be fear. You're going to feel fear at times, anxiety. It's not going to feel convenient. When you start trusting God, if you want to include God into your life and trusting God with stuff, it's not going to feel convenient at times. God is not a fast food drive-through. God is like a really slow drip coffee. It's like drop at a time. It's like, because God wants to test your faith. Because if you learn to wait, God will trust you with something powerful. If you learn to wait, God will give you the heavy weight of blessing in your life. But if you don't learn to wait, you'll never see it. You'll miss it. So don't miss it. So start seeing the opportunity, even if you feel like it's an obstacle. But convenience often will breed complacency. You might not even realize it until you get out of it. You get out of a place of convenience, and all of a sudden now you got to plan better, you got to do better, you got to be better, and all of a sudden you realize, oh my gosh, I've been living complacent over here. I got comfortable. I got in my groove, and I didn't even really know it until I got out of it. And sometimes God has to interrupt our lives to make us realize, man, we become complacent. Like, when was the last, think about it. I'm talking to the one that really has let Jesus into their life right now. When was the last time you took a big faith risk that felt painful, that felt super sacrificial? You know what I'm talking about? When was the last time you took a step, man, that was like outside of your zone, that stretched you, that pulled you, that even maybe tore a muscle because you got rejected or something bad happened or you had a failure because you took a faith risk? When was the last time that happened? I'm telling you, those kinds of things should be happening all the time. Because if you're really walking a life, I mean, just look at Paul, man. Think about it. Paul. You know how many times Paul probably felt like a failure? Paul the Apostle, who wrote the majority of the New Testament. He probably felt like, I'm shipwrecked again? Like, I got to get beat up again? I mean, I got nothing again. I got no food. I mean, what's going on, man? Like, I'm a businessman, and I'm preaching the gospel, and I got nothing again. I got no clothes again. Man, I'm being flogged, like getting my butt kicked again, just like Jesus did again. I thought God's blessing, I thought it was all easy and all butter and all cream and all favorful and all amazing. But Paul had to go through this. He had to see these obstacles and challenges as opportunities. It made him stronger. Made him more confident in his faith. So think about, when was the last time you took a faith risk that really stretched you? I want to be a part of a culture that is taking faith risks all the time. I want to be a culture that is not afraid to fail. I want to be part of a culture that actually can fail and has the strength to get back up again when there's failure, because they can see the God thing. They can see the God perspective. They can see through the failure. But so many of us are afraid of failure. You don't want to start this business idea that you have because you're afraid it might not fly. You don't want to do this new project that you have because you're afraid of what people might say about you. You don't want to make this step of faith because you're afraid that, hey, if I do this, it's my last chance, and what if it doesn't work out? You know what I'm talking about? I want to be a part of a culture that's constantly taking risks. Constantly taking risks. I can tell you some of the greatest stories that I have, that I've seen, that I've experienced, came with the greatest faith risks. Because faith really looks like R-I-S-K. It looks like risk. It looks ridiculous. Are you hearing me? It looks ridiculous. If you don't look ridiculous once in a while, ask yourself, are you walking in the faith that you're called to walk in? Because faith will look ridiculous at times. Verse 19, Jesus called out to them, "Come, follow me, and I will show you how to fish for people." And they left their nets at once and followed him. Verse 21, a little farther up the shore, he saw two other brothers, James and John, sitting on a boat with their father Zebedee, repairing their nets. And he called them at once too. They immediately followed him, leaving the boat and their father behind. Now you got to understand the context. These are the guys that were rejected by all the other rabbinical schools. In that culture, most of the people in that category would have these rabbis, these teachers that they would follow, that would be part of, discipling them. They were part of these little groups, and they were kind of like the uneducated ones. They were the rough, rugged, raw dudes that really none of the rabbinical schools and the rabbis really wanted. And here Jesus comes, and he starts picking all the freaks that nobody wants. He starts picking all the outcasts that nobody wants, because there's something different about them. They're going to be able to see. They're going to be able to see, because nobody could see them as who they really were. As soon as somebody saw them differently than everybody else, all of a sudden they had their eyes open and said, man, if he sees it, there must be something in me. And that's sometimes really how it works, is if sometimes you don't see what you have on the inside of you, but you have to start trusting the people around you, because if someone else can see it, it's probably there. Are you here today? Some of you didn't drink enough coffee this morning. Number 2, we have to see it. To not miss it, we got to see it. Number 2, we got to sow it. Write that down, sow it. We got to sow it. Verse 21, 1 Kings chapter 19. So Elisha turned back from him. So he said, hey, go and consider what I just offered to you. Go consider this mantle, this weight that's upon you. So Elisha turned back from him and took a yoke of oxen and slaughtered them, boiled their flesh using the oxen's equipment, and gave it to the people, and they ate. I love it. His first response when he saw the opportunity was to give. I'm going to give what I have. Once you see the God opportunity, it's like anything. If I see the potential of what my seed can do in this garden, I'm going to give my seed. If I can see what my seed can do, I'm going to sow my seed. And the moment that he saw the opportunity, he said, listen, all this it's not come with me anyway, so here, I'm going to use everything that I've got. I'm going to burn it all. I'm going to make this, I'm going to make this into this amazing stew, and I'm going to give it all away. His first reaction after he saw. How many know that we all go through seasons of intense sowing so we can go through seasons of intense reaping? But sometimes when those seasons come, if we can't see it, we will not sow it. And if we do not sow it, we will not reap it. And this is the challenge with all of us, because it's like the good stockbroker that's kind of watching the markets, waiting to see for the right time to sow. We have to be like that in the kingdom on this earth. We have to be like that. If we can see the season, we'll sow in the right season, and we'll see the success of our sowing in the next season. It's very important. So we have to see it, and we have to sow it. Number 3, we have to serve it. Write this down. We have to serve it. We have to serve it. 1 Kings chapter 19, verse 21, it says at the end of this verse, it says, then he arose, after he burned the equipment, boiled up the oxen's flesh, then he arose and followed Elijah and became what? His servant. He said, okay, I can see it. I can see it. I'm going to sow into it now. I'm going to give everything that I've got for this opportunity, because I know I'm going to reap benefits from it. But now the challenge begins. I got to serve it. I got to serve it. And in this moment here, we have Elijah, this opportunity that Elijah has given to Elisha. Elisha, because he can see it, because he can sow it, now it's time for him to serve it. And this is where the process begins. We talk a lot about this here because there's so much power in understanding the process, even more than just the purpose. You hear what I'm saying? Come on, let's have a conversation here. Are you awake? Slap your neighbor and say, wake up. Good. See, now you're laughing. Now you're having fun. Became his servant. Now, I love this because, you don't really see a lot about how Elisha served Elijah. You do right before a very special moment in 2 Kings chapter 2, you really do. And actually, I was going to speak a whole message on this other part, which I won't today, and I'll save it because there's something so powerful in the last little bit of the process before Elijah really passed down what he was and who he was to Elisha, for Elisha to become the successor. There was a few key things that happened, very intentional things that happened before that happened, but we don't really know a lot about what happened in between 1 Kings chapter 19 and how Elisha served Elijah. But we do know is that he assisted Elijah the same way that Joshua assisted Moses. The same way that Joshua assisted Moses is the same way that Elisha assisted Elijah. And we see a little bit of an example of it in 2 Kings 3, verse 11. Go there really quick. 2 Kings 3, verse 11. Out of the NLT, out of the New Living Translation, but King Jehoshaphat of Judah asked, is there no prophet of the Lord with us? If there is, can we ask of the Lord what to do through him? One of the king One of King Joram's officers replied, Elisha, son of Shaphat, is here. And he used to be Elijah's personal assistant. Now, if you look at the actual, term or the word there, it actually, in other translations, will read like this. He used to pour water on the hands of Elijah. Elisha used to pour water on the hands of Elijah. Now, what does that really mean? Because, what serving looks like is making your job a little easier. What serving looks like is cleaning off the dirt off of your hands so you can work. Cleaning off your hands so you can handle and do what you're called to do well with clean hands. It's a very powerful picture. It's like, here you go. I'm going to clean off your hands. I'm going to wash your hands so you could do what you're called to do. Because you got a job to do. That's what the actual word means. He poured water on the hands of Elijah. And Elisha had to learn to do that before he could become the one that he was called to become. Are you hearing this? We have to learn to serve. We have to learn to serve it. I think that is one of the most challenging things, right, that we all have. If you can learn to serve within your workplace, if you can learn to serve within the house of God, if you can learn to serve your family, if you can learn to serve your relationships, you watch the opportunity that is going to be given to you. You watch the promotion that's going to happen to you. And serving is never convenient. The moment serving becomes convenient, it's no longer serving. Serving is never convenient. It's something that you do selflessly, right? If I serve my children food, it's not convenient for me to make food. And when my daughter or my son screams at the table, not that they do that all the time, but all these, water! That's kind of how they communicate, water! I'm like, bro, Ezekiel, can I please have some water? Water! Sometimes my oldest daughter will be like this. It's a little more, graduated. She'll be like, water, please. It's not like, hey, can I have some water? Hey, Daddy, I noticed you're in the kitchen. Would you mind getting me a cup from the cupboard? No, it's water, please. It's so strong, right? But it's never convenient. Especially, the best moments are when you sit down at the table. Now there's 6 of us, right? So we sit down at the table. We get everything there, and maybe we forgot the water cups. And we get down and we get in that mode, and, the sink's, at least 20 feet away. I don't want to get up again, after a long day. And all of a sudden we're there, and all the kids are like, water! Sometimes I'm just honestly, go get your own water. Find a stool, find a ladder, go to the cupboard, make a mess. I am not getting up. If you want water, you got to wait till you shouldn't be drinking water while you eat anyways. It's not good for you. So wait till the end. This doesn't work. It's never convenient. Serving my family in those areas. I love it. Hey, but it's not convenient, and it shouldn't be, right? The moment I start living in convenience, I'm going to get complacent, man. That water, it wakes me up. It drives me to action. It motivates me. It energizes me. Even if it's a negative energy, it motivates me to do something, right? Serve. And I'm sure Elisha, man, he lived this. He lived this life. And we don't really know how many years. Some say they know 6 years. Some say 3 years. Some say more. There was a time frame of Elisha serving Elijah. And we don't fully grasp that process. We really don't. I don't think sometimes God wants you to know the process because everyone's process is different. Right? If you start knowing every process, then maybe you'll compare yourself and say, well, he didn't go through that, so why do I have to go through that? But everyone's process is different. I'm sure Elijah sometimes in a tight spot told Elisha, water! My hands are dirty! Wash my hands quickly! I got to eat. I'm hungry. And Elisha had to run, go to the well, get a bucket, start washing his. I'm sure it wasn't convenient. But man, watch what happens next. Watch what is opened up to Elisha next. Number 4, we have to seize it. Number 1, we have to see it. Write that down. We have to sow it. We got to serve it. Number 4, we got to seize it. This is part of our process in dealing with what at times feels like the obstacle of opportunity. We have to seize it. 1 Kings 19:21. Then he arose and followed Elijah and became his servant. But that really wasn't even it. That really wasn't even it. In his mind, that was it. He had no idea what was coming next. What was coming next, the most important part of this whole journey, 2 Kings, go to there. 2 Kings chapter 2, and I'm almost done. 2 Kings chapter 2, verse 9 to 10, out of the New King James Version. 2 Kings, and I'm closing here. Chapter 2, verse 9. And so it was, when they had crossed over, that Elijah said to Elisha, okay, now you have to understand the context of this, because it's kind of interesting, because Elijah had given 3 separate opportunities. And I'm going to probably expound on this in the future because it's really powerful, but gave him 3 opportunities to leave his side. Elijah said, hey man, I got to go to Bethel, which means the house of God. I got to go to Bethel. I got to go to the house. I got to go to the house of God. So why don't you stay here and tarry here. That's what the word is, and it actually means there, sit and consider this process. Because you see, what I'm about to do, what I want to do for you is so big. But you need to consider what this purpose really is going to mean for your life. So sit here. And so Elisha said, no, I'm not leaving your side, because he could see that something significant was about to take place. He could see and feel there was a transition coming between him, Elijah, his mentor, and Elisha. He could see it. He could really see it. So he's like, no, I'm not leaving your side, bro. I'm going to be with you. I'm going to go through it, the struggle with you. I'm going with you to the house of God, going to Bethel. Then he comes to a place and says, hey, I got to cross over to Jericho. Cross over to Jericho. And he said, hey, why don't you sit here, tarry here, stay here, sit and consider. And you've come into the house of God, but now, from this place, I want you to break through the walls that are about to come against you. Because Jericho really represents a lot of things, but one of the things it represents is one of the first breakthroughs that happened when Israel crossed over the Jordan from 40 years of the wilderness. Because you see, first, God has to break into your life, and that happens in the house of God. First, God has to break into your life before he can break out of your life the things that are surrounding your life that are keeping you back. So Elisha said, okay, no, I'm not leaving your side because I know something's about to happen. The third challenge was this. He said, you came with me to Bethel. You came with me to Jericho, but now I got to go to the Jordan. I've got to cross over. So stay here, tarry here, sit and consider what's about to take place. Because this is the transition from the wilderness of process into the promised land of purpose. Because what did Israel do? They crossed over what? The Jordan into the promised land. You following me here?
Yeah.
The Jordan symbolically represents the transition, the crossing over, the moving into the destiny, not the destination, but the destiny that God had for. So he said, listen, sit here. I got to cross over. I got to go to the Jordan. Sit here. Also representative of the place that Jesus got baptized. Everything's going to change. The power of God's going to come on your life. You're no longer identified with who you used to be, Elisha. You following me? Some of you are not getting it. I don't know if you're getting it. Before God can break through to the people around you, God has to break into your life in the house of God. So he can break through you around the walls that are trying to keep you back, that feel like obstacles, so that he can break you into a place of purpose that's going to bring breakthrough to everybody else around you. And this was the test that Elisha had with Elijah. He said, sit here. And Elisha passed all these tests. And it gets to this place now in verse 9 of chapter 2. And so it was, after all of this, when they had crossed over the Jordan, that Elijah said to Elisha, basically this, hey, you passed all these tests, man. I was testing you. I gave you this opportunity. I gave you an opportunity to let it all go. I gave you an opportunity to quit. I gave you a way out. You see this? God will give you a way out sometimes. Fine, that's fine. You're going to miss it. I don't want you to miss it. Don't miss it. Don't miss it when opportunity is thrown at you. But here, if you want to miss it, you can miss it. Here, I'm giving you an opportunity like he did in the garden. Hey, you want a way out of dependence upon me? Eat off this one tree that I told you not to eat off of. You'll miss it, but it's your choice. It's free will, right? But God doesn't want you to miss it. You see what I'm saying? And so it was, they crossed over, that Elijah said to Elisha, ask, what may I do for you before I am taken from you? Elisha said, please let a double portion of your spirit be upon me. So he said, you have asked a hard thing. Nevertheless, if you see me, what does it say here? If you see me, say it. If you see me, when I am taken from you, it shall be so for you. But if not, it shall not be so. That's kind of a scary thing, eh? If you can see it, you can seize it. If you can see it, you'll sow into it, you'll serve it, and you will see it. If you see me when I go, you'll be able to take hold of all that I prepared you for. You got to keep your eyes on the goal. You got to keep your eyes and your focus fixed towards the destination. Stop looking at your circumstances. Stop looking at the trial and the opportunity to get out and the obstacle as an obstacle, and start seeing everything as an opportunity. Fix your focus on me, because if you can see it, you can seize it in your life. And if you can seize it, you've invited my purpose to be manifest through your life.